Hi everybody and welcome back to the Crafty Crew podcast. I can't believe I'm saying this. It's episode 6 and I can't believe I'm saying this either. It's non-alcoholic beers. How are we feeling about that, lads?
Well, just to start off, I'd like to say, Mark is here with us as well.
I'm here too, guys.
Sorry, shit.
And Walshy's there.
Yeah.
You can't get rid of me.
No, that stays in, Kinger. That stays in. You've messed up and you got caught.
As much as we try.
I'm glad it happened on the non-alcoholic.
Maybe it's a good thing that it's not the non-alcoholic one. Well, now that I've thoroughly messed up the intro, Nally, tell us some facts about non-alcoholic beers.
Yeah, so non-alcoholic beers, they're made much the same the whole way through the process as regular beers. Obviously, one or two little things that are different. However, the brewing process right up to near the end is generally the same. So after that, then there's 2 to 3 ways that people use to get the alcohol out of the beer. So everything's brewed the same, and the reason it's brewed the same back in the day was beer was healthier option than water, because water was contaminated with everything. Whereas if you brew the beer, it's got hops and stuff in there, it's more medicinal. It's less likely to be, contaminated with different bacteria and stuff like that. So getting low alcohol versions of this was a good thing, because then people could drink something that was still kind of, less likely to give them an infection or a disease, and they were still able to work because it was a low alcohol. So anyway, the way to get through it is you complete the brewing process up to where you're kind of finishing off the beer. And one of the ways you can do it is so alcohol has a lower boiling point than water, and beer is mainly water. So alcohol has a lower boiling point, and what can happen is if you raise the temperature of your beer up to about 80 degrees, the alcohol will start to boil off quicker than the water. So because the alcohol is leaving the beer, you're bringing down the ABV, you're bringing down the alcohol concentration in the beer, and it's just getting lighter. Another way is reverse osmosis, which is a big long process, and there's filters and things and gremlins or something, I don't know. But they run away with the beer and the alcohol from it. It's great. And then the other way is it's similar to the boiling off process. You lower the pressure in the beer, and by lower pressure, the alcohol boils off quicker than the water, and that lowers the alcohol content of it. It's actually a really, really difficult style to get right, because you can make a really good beer, and you can absolutely, if you're trying to get low alcohol beer, you can absolutely ruin it by boiling off. If you get the temperature too high when you're trying to evaporate off the alcohol, you can boil the wort again, and you can get all these off flavors and all these burnt flavors and stuff like that. So it's actually a really hard style to get right, so it is.
So just a quick thing, Nally, just on when you said back in the day they used to drink beer instead of water. So what your history teacher might have told you in school would have been something like, oh, in the Middle Ages they gave beer to children. And while yes, that is true, it was basically non-alcoholic beer, like what we have today. So as Nally said, they would have used the brewing process to generate beer, but they would have taken a portion of it, turned it into non-alcoholic beer, and used that as their day-to-day drink.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Mark, yeah.
Right, so I know this is non-alcoholic, but I start on it's just a difference between non-alcoholics and low alcohol beers. So low alcohol beers have an alcoholic strength by volume of between 0.5 and 1.2%, whereas alcohol-free beers are those with an average of a 0.05 or less. Non-alcoholic drinks mean no alcohol at all.
So I guess when we think of like no alcohol beer and the beers that we try, they are actually kind of low alcohol beers, because it takes too much effort and time and money to drive a beer down to 0.05% ABV. And you'll find most of them are around 0.5% ABV, which is what the ones we're trying today are like. The reason behind this is it comes to a point where there's no point in lowering the alcohol. So your standard kind of 0.5% non-alcoholic beer, like your Beck's maybe is a big famous one that people know, or the ones we're trying today, your body can process that in about 12 minutes. Okay, so the alcohol, from the time you drink that alcohol, about 10% of it gets absorbed by your mouth, your throat, some of it goes into your lungs, 90% of it hits your stomach, goes pretty much straight into your bloodstream through your intestine, and it all hits your liver. Your liver can deal with that in about 12 minutes, which by the time You drink another beer, it's pretty much gone. The process of liquid getting from your mouth to your liver is about 12 minutes. So that's why we don't get drunk from non-alcoholic beer or low alcoholic beer. They've even done studies where they've given people like 10, 12 pints and told them drink as fast as you can. And even at the end of that time, they're still below the drink driving limit of whatever country they're in.
Well, after Nally and Mark, I feel like I was just in a big science class there. There's a lot of big words that I'm not going to pretend to understand.
Was it the gremlins of reverse osmosis that got you, Kinger, was it?
That was, yeah, exactly that. I should also mention, because I messed up the intro and got thrown at the start of the episode, I never mentioned the kind of well-known non-alcoholic option, and I think it's fair to say that every beer brand in the world has a non-alcoholic option at this stage. So like, take your pick. There's 0.0 options, and there's all sorts of options. So
yeah, I think that's the thing that's kind of happening now. It's a new trend that's happening and going more mainstream as well. I think I was reading something the other day. They reckon that the non-alcoholic or low alcoholic beer market is just going to increase and possibly be up to maybe 25-30% by the year 2025 or something like that, which is a ridiculous amount. So it's
crazy, but I think everyone is so health conscious these days and looking after themselves and working out and stuff. So
I guess a lot of it boils down to when you get older, you want to be in better shape and stuff. But for me, when I get older, I want to be the main man sitting on the bar stool in the pub. I don't want to be some guy who was fit in his 20s and, you know, can run 100 kilometers or some shit when he was 35. I want to be the guy that when you walk in and you look at all them pint men, there's the pint man, and I want to be that guy. That's my goal in life.
Going off that, Mark, I would like to be that man that can have the 45 pints and a packet of crisps.
Sure, then you go at it again.
And there'll be no man stopping me.
What an episode to mention the man himself in the non-alcoholic episode, man, isn't it? Doing a bit of research into non-alcoholic beers, I discovered that they're actually quite good for post-exercise recovery. You guys might know better. The sodium in them benefits recovery from exercise, and the fluids and carbohydrates can also help your body to recuperate after serious or strenuous exercise, which I'm not going to be falling victim to anytime soon, to be fair.
If we needed sodium in fluids, would you not just drink salt water, like at that stage? Who wants to do that? Who wants to drink non-alcoholic beers?
Also, exercise, not something I'm overly familiar with these days.
And for anyone who remembers from episode 2, the Sours episode, check it out if you haven't listened to it. Kinger is the most sour man in the world after he's exercised.
Oh, yeah.
That is true. That is true. That is true. I have to say, I'm surprised to find out that non-alcoholic beers actually start with alcohol in them. That's blown my mind. I just assumed they were made without alcohol totally.
Yeah, I suppose to be classified as a beer, they have to go through the brewing process. So they'd have to have all the ingredients, including the yeast and hops and everything like that. So, I mean, if you don't have them in there, it wouldn't be classified as a beer. It would just be some kind of hoppy tea or some madness.
Juice.
Yeah.
For licensing purposes, you'd probably have to call it some sort of non-alcoholic beer-like drink.
Okay, well, look, let's get into it. Mark, I think you picked these ones for us this week, right?
Yeah, I drew the very, 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 very short straw and had to pick some non-alcoholic beers. So I think we'll start off today with the Dundalk Bay Brewery's Brewmaster range. We're going to try their premium Isotonic non-alcoholic IPA. Isotonic. There is a word I have only ever seen written before on a bottle of Powerade.
Well, that has surprised me, I have to say.
That pours
on the aroma.
That pours like a beer, though. Like, it's got a good head on it.
It's really got its IPA kind of aroma and pour right, doesn't it? You wouldn't know straight away.
Yeah, and it holds the head well as well. It's not a...
It really does.
It's kind of golden in colour as well. It's not quite, like that, like light straw yellow that you see in some IPAs. It's a little darker. It's a bit more golden in colour.
Kind of looks a little bit like a lager, Nally, would you say, with the carbonation?
Yeah, I'd say so. A little bit like one. As to quote Walshy, it looks fizzy.
Yeah, one of my classic terms.
So just bouncing on the mouthfeel there, it's got quite a nice crisp taste to it. Almost more crisp than your normal IPAs, and I would say that's probably due to the lack of the alcohol content. but it's quite a refreshing beer, I have to say.
That's not bad.
That is quite tasty, I have to say.
Yeah, that's definitely better than expected. To be fair, it's kind of caramelly or sweet at the end, though. You know, after you've had a mouthful, that bit at the back, it kind of bites you. It's a bit of caramel toffee or something. It's not.
There's a weird sweetness.
Yeah, it's a nice sweetness, though. You have to say, like, it really complements the beer, and it's got a nice. I know what I say. It's crisp and smooth with the carbonation, but it's got a nice even palate to it. Like it's not all over the place. It's not like sharp at the front and light at the back. It's just nice and even. Walshy's been very quiet about this non-alcoholic discovery. I want to know what he thinks about it, because he's sitting there. For any of our listeners, we do this over video chat, but Walshy's sitting there and he's got a big main face on him.
I don't know what to think of it. I don't think there's a lot to it. Like, I didn't know what to expect. I've tried a few non-alcoholics, just to say I've tried them, like Irding or Heineken Zero, that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't even know how to really rate it.
I'd say, just from personal experience and stuff, I know the ones you've mentioned there, like the Heineken and Erdinger and stuff, I find them awful sweet. You know, like the kind of more mass-produced ones. I find they tend to just make them very sweet to kind of mask something. I don't think this is overly sweet. I know I was saying I was getting caramel there near the end, but it wasn't sickly. You know, it's not like you're after getting something handed to you where it's syrupy or anything like that. It's just nice at the end.
I agree with you, Nally. Those kind of more mainstream non-alcoholic beers, they try and almost go for a soft drink kind of taste while they're going for the beer look. So it's like you're standing in a bar holding a beer, but drinking a Coke or something, and they get lost in between the two of them. But this has its own nice natural sweetness without being, as you said, too sweet. And it's still got that beery look because, you know, it was a beer at one point.
Yeah, and it poured like a beer. It kept its head. You know, I find that some of those other ones, when you pour it, it's just all foam at the top. You don't get a nice pint out of it. It would take too long to get a decent pint out of it, letting the head settle and everything. I think it's done a really good job on it, to be fair. I'm actually pleasantly surprised because the only ones I've not really had any craft non-alcoholic beers before. I've had a couple of, you know, session IPAs that are low ABVs, but I've never had any non-alcoholic. So I'm pleasantly surprised by it, to be fair. It tastes like beer, which is the main thing. It's, you know, it's not overly sweet. It's a little sweet, but not sickly. And there's a little bit of hop flavor in there as well. I think they've done a really good job on that, to be fair. For what it is like, yeah.
Something Mark said there, I actually kind of liked, and I actually agree with it. It kind of has made me
No way.
kind of figure out where I was, because I was very confused. You were like, oh, it's beer, but because of the roughly it was like because of it, it's actually more in the lines of like a soda, which kind of makes it me nearly understand it more, if that makes sense. I'm like, okay, I get what it is now.
I'm sitting here like completely bamboozled by what you've just said, Walshy, so I don't know if I can.
I am a little bit as well. But that wouldn't be the first time either.
Walshy, I just wanted to pull you up, just not pull you up on something, but I would challenge you to, in the middle of a night out, have someone hand you a glass of this and you tell them it's non-alcoholic.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Like, do you think you could?
If I like after we're out and I gave them one of these and told them it was non-alcoholic, and if that person was to be able to tell me the difference between the two.
No. If we were all on the night out,
you were saying earlier that there was something about this that you just weren't mad about, and it
No,
just
it was
might be a personal taste.
More
but
something
like,
I wasn't sure on. Like I was nearly confused by it.
Okay. Out of interest, I was just wondering, like, was it a preconceived thing in your head that you knew it was non-alcoholic? So I'm just wondering if you were tasting this as if you thought it was alcoholic, would that make a difference to you?
Do you know what? Maybe it is. Maybe knowing that it's a very low alcohol thing, I kind of automatically have that set in my head that it's not what it should be. But that's why I was kind of going off what
easy, like,
Mark said, and it's like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get wrapped up in that, like to know that you're going out for a night out with your mates and you're the one driving, so you're going to stick on a non-alcoholic version for the night. You're probably already a bit bowled about it, like, do you know?
Yeah.
I think this is one time where Mark's process might actually be the best way to judge these beers. because we're not overly familiar with the style, so I don't think we've much to compare them to. And the popular ones that we have had, we all kind of agree are a bit over the top, sickly sweet kind of job. So, Mark, good
definitely.
job. Your process is, it's paid dividends.
Beer goes in, beer goes out. That's what Crafty Crew brewing process is all about.
We're going to get you a jingle at some stage, and you're not going to come up with it.
The process.
As always on the Crafty Crew podcast, we have a very scientific rating system for all of our beers. It starts out at unbearable booze, or in this case, not enough booze.
Not enough booze.
Beer, brutal, and unbeer-leavable, Jeff. Now, maybe it's unfair to say that a non-alcoholic beer is never going to get to an unbearable Jeff rating, but I think this is right up there on a brutal. I think it's fantastic.
Like that's done its job really well. I think like you were saying, Kinger, if you're on a night out, with the other non-alcoholic options that were out there, I would not be happy to be the designated driver. I just like to taste the beer too much, and those other ones don't taste like beer to me. This does. It's done a really good job, in my opinion. I think that's a really nice non-alcoholic. So I'll jump in straight away. To me, that's brutal. I'm with you. I'm not giving it an unbeer-leavable. I can't, in good conscience, have our first unbeer-leavable beer be non-alcoholic, but it is a brutal.
Yeah, I'll go next, and I think you're fair enough. Brutal. I think it's the lower side of brutal. It's not up there with those delicious, super refreshing, super satisfying beers. But yeah,
100%.
Dundalk Bay Brewery have done an excellent job with this beer. I don't know what de-alcoholing process they use of all the ones Nally's described.
Reverse osmosis.
By gremlins.
Exactly.
By gremlins.
Shout out to the reverse osmosis gremlins Nally mentioned. So the gremlins in Dundalk must be really good at removing the alcohol but leaving the taste, because this is a delicious beer.
Yeah, I think even like you were saying is like if you say you went to the bar and ordered a pint of this, and I was sitting there, it's like, oh, here, Walshy, I got you this one. Try it. It genuinely tastes like beer. There's no way of me genuinely knowing that that's a non-alcoholic beer unless I see it on the can or I've seen it on the tap. I wouldn't know. So I mean, yeah, I'd be kind of like Mark. I mean, brutal, yeah, but I would be like just beer, but closer to the brutal side. Do you know that kind of that side of it? But I wouldn't go further than brutal. I wouldn't.
No, I think I'd agree with you, Walshy. Yeah, definitely. Like I said already, brutal. I mean, slightly on the underside of brutal, but a really fantastic job. And it's the Crafty Crew podcast, so we like to deal in absolutes. So there's none of this point something rating system. None of that. Have none of that. So yeah, 100% it goes up to brutal. I reckon.
Nally's holding firm on the rating system.
months, Kinger.
Okay then, so Dundalk Bay Brewery's non-alcoholic IPA.
It's getting a brutal. It's the best thing to come out of Dundalk since Steve Staunton.
I'm the gaffer. One final thing, just reading the can, this Isotonic IPA is refreshing and energizing with only 11 calories and 100% vegan friendly. That's pretty cool. I think, like, for someone, if someone is like really kind of watching themselves going to the gym and working out and trying to stay fit, like it's definitely a pretty believable option for a beer.
Definitely. And if I was going through like one of those healthy months or whatever, instead of beer I'd have this stuff. Maybe I'd throw in a couple of fifths of vodka into each pint just to get the alcohol there. But I would definitely drink this for the taste.
So, King, let me get this right. If I ever decided to go to the gym, are you telling me I could bring a can of this with me instead of like a protein shake if it's only 11 calories?
I mean, she'd be prepared to answer a lot of questions.
I just want to know where I stand,
I'm far from a gym expert, but I wouldn't be having it with you. I'd have it after the gym.
Oh, okay. Just so I know when I do start going to the gym, I know where to go. Okay.
I mean, I've seen people coming in with all kinds of messed up stuff into the gym. I reckon it might be the best option. And Mark, just on your point of
It could be a good
just on
option,
throwing
yeah,
your
for-
point, just on your point of throwing the vodka into it, Mark. I reckon. I mean, if you're trying to keep the calories down, 11 calories from a can of beer and vodka is virtually none as well. I think that's a great idea for a cocktail party.
Great mix.
I think what we need to do is give up this beer podcast shit and start getting in the health market.
Patent pending.
Health beers.
Health beers, yeah. Can only go well.
So that is a Crafty Crew podcast rating of Brutiful for Dundalk Bay Brewery's non-alcoholic IPA, which I think has surprised everyone to start this episode off. Lads, if you were a beer, what style of beer would you be and what would you be called?
Kinger, can I just ask, just before we start answering this, you don't mean like if we could pick what beer we could be. You mean we need to...
No. Based on your personality, come up with a style that would suit you as a person, and what would you be called?
Okay, just off the top of my head, working in retail and working since day one of this lockdown, I think right now I would be a sour. And I mean, I'm talking like yellow belly castaway kind of sour, because that's where I am at now. And I hadn't a clue there for a minute. I was like, what kind of question is this? And I was like, yeah, no, that's how I feel right now. A sour beer.
I know where I'm going with this. I have two cousins who specifically call me this in any sort of social situation. So I'm going to be a triple IPA called Tough Work. I'm going to be something that's so alcoholic, it's going to take you a lot of effort to get through. And shout out to the two of them listening. But there you go. National airwaves, you've called me Tough Work.
Mark, I have never met you in person, and I've never heard a truer fact about you in all my life.
I suppose a red IPA. Just because I'm ginger, so I can't be a normal IPA.
That's fair.
And then an IPA because it's grand. It's nothing over the top. Not too terrible, but not great either. Just grand. I go with that. Yeah, middle of the road. Fair enough.
Nally, I was going to say, I mean, yeah, you kind of hit off the ginger part, but I was just going to say you'd be a ginger beer.
Boo.
If you want to be more on the nose.
I would also like to boo Walshy at this time. Boo.
Oh, in comparison to some of the jokes you've come out with lately, I mean, that's top of the line, that is.
What about yourself, Kinger? Where have you fallen on this?
I don't know. I feel like I'd probably be some kind of a stout. Nothing super flavorful, just a down the middle of the road stout. Probably something called like, have it a low ABV and call myself like big old softy or something. I don't know.
I like that. That's good.
Is that what your wife calls you, Kinger, is it?
Wow.
Could you imagine going into the pub and ordering that? It's like, can I get an old softy there, please? Like,
A big old softy.
Big old softy.
a big old softy.
Okay, beer number 2 for our non-alcoholic episode. Mark, where are you bringing us this time?
So, Kinger, we are going into the weird and wonderful world of Lervig. Very good brewery if anyone has tried them before. So it's No Worries Pineapple non-alcoholic beer. Again, it's an IPA, it's 0.5%. So I've got some big hopes for this because Lervig are a very established craft brewery. And I'm hoping it's nice. So let's go ahead and crack them open, lads.
Mark, as we are opening and pouring, do you want to give the details on the artwork on this can?
So we've spoken and had a couple of beers on previously from the Hopfully Brewery, who have some really unusual art styles. This one, the top half of the can is decorated with what looks like an old, bald, wrinkly Mr. Meeseeks coming out of a hole with No Worries tattooed on his arms.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
Bottom,
It's a wrinkly Mr. Meeseeks.
Look at me.
The bottom. Look at me! I've been hiding in this hole for 50 years. And then the bottom half is just like a black and white outline of his legs on a ladder sketched. So bottom half no colour, top half all the colour. So let's see if that beer holds up. Also, there's a pineapple planted in the ground with sunglasses on, which is, that's totally cool.
That's how they grow.
Do they have the bottom part in white so people that are drinking non-alcoholic beer have something to do and they can colour in the bottom half?
That's a great observation, and that would make sense why there's all those coloured markers and crayons in every bar ever.
Yeah.
That's certainly juicy, so it is. That's not see-through at all.
I haven't.
That is cloudy.
I haven't tasted it, but like, you can like you don't need to taste this. The smell of this is unbelievable.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if you don't like pineapple, you mightn't love the smell
You'll hate it.
because you can smell the pineapple. It's strong, but I think it's beautiful.
Also surprised for a non-alcoholic beer, this is probably the haziest drink we've
I
had.
was going to say, yeah, it's very cloudy, isn't it? There's no seeing through this bad boy at all.
That is thick.
Looking
Like
at this,
myself.
thick with two C's, Nally. So looking at this thing, you know, the aroma is like incredibly strong pineapple. The taste, you know, that the color, as you said, is very, very hazy. It's the most haziest thing we've ever seen, guys. But the mouthfeel of it, it's super crisp. There's like absolutely no residue left in your tongue after this. It is gone straight away.
Yeah, it does. It dissipates really quick, so it does. You still get that kind of pineapple-y taste left after it's gone, but it's not like it's coating your mouth or anything. It's gone pretty quickly.
To throw back to something I said earlier, where like, you know, those mainstream kind of zero alcohol beers try and look like a beer but taste like a soft drink. Well, this looks like a beer, definitely tastes like a soft drink, but they have got it right because based on this tasting, it still tastes very nice. You know, it's not in that middle ground of just shitness that a lot of the others are. This is actually quite delicious. And I don't know how you guys feel, so let me know.
Like, this is what I was expecting a tropical IPA to taste like.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. Now, the only kind of counter argument to it, if you don't like pineapple, don't drink it because it's very strong. The smell, the taste, you get a lot of pineapple on it. If you're not a fan of pineapple, you know, no more than when we had Broken Dreams, I wasn't a fan of coffee, which put me off it altogether. If you don't like pineapple, this is going to put you off it altogether because it's very apparent in it.
Yeah, 100%. Walshy, you're dead right. And Kinger as well. It is an IPA and it's pineapple flavoured, so it is a tropical IPA. So I guess maybe we should have had this for the Tropical IPAs podcast.
Do you know what it smells and tastes like? Do you know when you go to maybe an aunt's house or a relative's house and they bring out the tea and a pineapple log?
Gatto, baby. Gatto in the house.
Gatto, yeah. It's the exact same flavour. Like, I was nearly expecting a lilt type taste of it, but it's not that carbonated that you could say it's like lilt.
No, definitely not. In terms of drinkability, it's like eye-wateringly sweet though. I think that's the one drawback I've had with it so far. And I know Nally agrees with me, when things are too sweet, it can kind of get ruined. So I'm interested to hear what he thinks about this one.
Yeah, I'm torn on this one. It smells class. I really like the looks of it. It's a strawy kind of colour. It's really cloudy, but it's a really nice kind of yellow straw colour. It doesn't hold the head like a beer though. Like, the head is gone almost instant. Like, you know, even if you give it a swirl around the glass, it doesn't last very long. Not that that's a bad thing. You know, there's a lot of good beers that happens. But yeah, I think that's a beaut now. If you were having one can, that's fine. You know, but I think no more than yourself, Mark. I think the sweetness in this one gets me. Whereas the previous one we had, the non-alcoholic, was just beer. It was a good solid, a little bit of bitterness. It was a little sweet, but it wasn't sickly. I think this one has gone a bit... It's really nice, but I think it's gone more towards that kind of soft drink side that you were talking about. It's kind of gone more towards that. Like with the tropical IPAs, we had the alcohol that was in it kind of cut through that fruit flavour to take them away from that soft drink kind of area. Whereas there's none in this, it doesn't have anything to cut through it. So it stays on that kind of... a weird kind of balance between the malt and hops and then the sweetness of the pineapple for me. So it's grand, but I'm just not going to be drinking too many of them. I'd rather sit down and drink a heap of the first ones we had than sit down and drink this all night.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those beers that, like, it comes back on you, that, like, the first few mouthfuls are absolutely delicious and you're getting this really refreshing pineapple taste. There's no alcohol, so there's no mouthfeel lingering in there. It's just pure carbonation, crispness. But then the more you drink of it, you start being like, oh my god, this shit's going to give me a headache if I keep going, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Like that pineapple, not to say that it gets worse, but after a while you do, is like, oh, yeah, it's like if you ate a pineapple or any kind of fruit, if you do it over and over again, it's just going to get too much. Whereas the brewmaster we had, it was continuously, and you would have been happily to be able to drink that for a bit, because it didn't have an overpowering taste like this one has with the pineapple.
While the initial taste of pineapple kind of does dissipate very quickly, there is a weird aftertaste with this one, which I think is maybe an effort to keep the sweetness there as long as possible. But I don't think it works. It's not a great aftertaste. Like,
yeah, I think this one doesn't seem to be getting as great reviews as the first one was getting. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's just a sweetness that comes at the end of it. I'm not a big fan of it. There's too much of it there nearly. It's still alright, you drink a can of it, but you're not gonna... That's not something, if you're a designated driver, that's not something I'm going to be sitting in the pub drinking all night.
I feel like when Lervig were sensory testing this one, they just they focused on the first few mouthfuls. And this is a shout out to all breweries out there, okay? Even Diageo, you want to properly taste test one of your beers, you need to get your trained sensory person to get like 12 cans of it into them. So beers have a lifetime of flavour, for me anyway. And it starts off with that first initial taste, and then it mellows out, and then you start getting the real notes of it. And I think the real notes of this, maybe too sweet, maybe too much of a bitter aftertaste as well at the same time. It just has like all the ingredients there, but they don't seem to put them together right. It's just not working.
Okay, I think we've all had our say. In terms of our uber scientific Crafty Crew podcast, where are you putting this one?
Well, I'll throw my hat in the ring with this one and say it's just beer for me. Maybe a little bit below it, but I'm going to round it up to just beer. I think it's grand. It's something you'd have one of, maybe two at a stretch. You're not going to hate it. You're not going to love it. Middle of the road. Just beer.
Yeah, no, I'll go next. I think for me, in this case, it needs more booze. No, not for me. No, it's too sweet near the end. It's just not for me. If you're really a big fan of pineapple, you might enjoy it, but I like pineapple, and I'm still not a big fan of it. It's just too sickly near the end. If I'm getting a non-alcoholic beer, I want to get it to taste like beer. If I want something super sweet that's non-alcoholic, I'll go out and buy a soft drink. I just, for me, it's missing the mark to me.
Not a solid point. Fair point. Kinger, what do you think?
I think I agree with Nally. I think it's down there for needs more booze, which I don't mean it needs alcohol. It's a booze. It's just,
ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies
and gentlemen, when the most optimistic rater in Ireland thinks you're only a 2 out of 5, go back to work.
I don't know. I'm not a fan of I like pineapple, like I have to say, but I think it's just too much. I think it's trying to do too much to mask the fact that it's a non-alcoholic beer, which for me is disappointing.
I remember Mark doing it like a couple of episodes ago, and especially with the Green Zebra. At first he was like, oh, this is very nice. And I was the same, but getting a half, 3/4 the way through this can, I'm like, the pineapple, it's just too much.
Can I just say, Walshy, are you actually doing the same thing that I did a few episodes ago that you absolutely berated me for? Calling me a flip-flopper and a disgrace and all number of horrible things that didn't make the edit of the episode. Are you like, no, you could have just done it, I wouldn't have realised, but you actually just mentioned me, so...
No, hold on now. You actually...
Well, he wasn't sneaky about it, to be fair. He came out and said, I can't believe I'm doing this.
I believe I went from, it smells like feet, it doesn't taste like feet, to, it's okay. So.
No, you said it was very nice at the beginning. But, right, we're going on tangent here. But I thought it was very nice. The pineapple was tasty at the beginning, but continuing on, it kind of got a lot. And it was just, besides the pineapple, there's just not a lot else to it. And after a while, that's just going to become too much of anything. So I'd be with Kinger and Nally. with the booze. Needs more booze.
Yeah, no, I'm not too annoyed at that, guys, because like I have a super sweet tooth, so I can see why that just pure pineapple sweetness is appealing to me, and maybe it wouldn't to a lot of people. So I'm gonna lead us in a chorus of this. I'm gonna start us off. Right, you ready? Needs more.
Booze.
Brilliant.
I don't know whether I wanted to boo more, the drink or that.
Okay, so lads, I've asked you what your kind of first journey into the world of craft beer was before. What was your first ever drink?
So, Kinger, I'll kick us off. The first ever beer or alcoholic drink I had was Galahad, which is, at the time, I don't know if they still make it, was, I think, an Aldi own brand of lager.
Absolute puke.
And this is...
It's still there.
Yeah, for all of our listeners, this is what will put it into context for you. As a person of a certain age, drinking in a place that wasn't a pub, drinking Galahad, I had a couple of cans of this, then I had a can of Dutch Gold, and thought, oh hey, this Dutch Gold stuff, this is gorgeous. I need to get me some Dutch Gold. Which led to me the next night I was out specifically trying to get Dutch Gold. That was a disaster for night number 2. But Galahad, Aldi own brand beer for me.
My first beverage would probably have been either Bulmers or Budweiser, I reckon.
Excuse me?
Yeah, there's a reason I moved. I've moved off.
Excuse me?
I've moved off, Kinger. We've moved on. Build a bridge. Get over it. Yeah.
The devastation that I felt after me picking ciders as a style of drink that I would stick with for the rest of my life, and you have the audacity to tell me that your first drink was Bulmers.
Yeah, and there's a reason I didn't pick them as my style to drink for life, and there's a reason I haven't drank it in quite a while. I don't think this changes my valid opinion of what you said.
Fair.
You have to try something to know you don't like it, Kinger, okay?
No, I don't dislike cider. It's just not something you could stick on for life, I reckon. But it would have been probably Bulmers or Budweiser. And more than likely at one stage near the beginning, that led to many, many snake bites. Which are a terrible idea, so they are.
Your use of tonality for the word terrible couldn't have been better there, to be fair.
I'm interested to hear Walshy's answer to this, because for any of our listeners from the first few episodes, or any episode previously, you'll know that he hasn't ever had a Smithwick's. He had one Guinness in his life, I think, ever. He's a man who eschews the natural path of an Irish drinker. So what sort of weird
This
thing
could be a big answer.
is he going to have?
Could be a big answer.
Yeah.
Okay. My very first drink was a vodka.
Boo. Boo.
And I hope my mother doesn't listen to this, because that's taking the vodka out of the press that belongs to her and doing the clever thing of trying to fill it with water.
Replace it with water.
Just like, I didn't drink it. There's loads in the bottle. No.
What I particularly love about this is he said vodka, which, you know, you could have vodka at any age, but then he proceeded to incriminate himself by explaining how he stole it from his mother. Well done, Walshy.
Not necessarily.
Well, okay, he didn't really incriminate himself, but we'll just leave that to the imagination.
He said, I hope
think he
my
very
mother
much-
isn't listening.
And then proceeded to tell us that he replaced the vodka with water. I mean, if that's not incriminating yourself, I don't know what is. That's like saying, I hope the cops aren't listening, because what I did was I took one knife and put the other knife back in its place.
My first drink, and I feel a bit arsey with this, my first drink was actually wine. I know.
And I got stick for vodka.
Yeah, but vodka's just harsh, whereas wine is a bit, it's a bit.
You can understand getting wine at a wedding or something like that. Your older relation gives you a glass of wine or whatever. Your parents let you have some.
It's weird though. Like, I wouldn't be the biggest fan of wine now. Like, I wouldn't go out and like have a glass of wine. Like, people sit at home and have a glass of wine in the evenings. It's never appealed to me, really.
I kind of drink a bit of wine. I don't mind it, but yeah, I went through a phase where I was like, oh, it's great. So I kind of moved away from beers for maybe 3 whole weeks. Oh my god.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
For
Whoa,
like 3
what?
whole weeks, Nally. 3 whole weeks, Nally. I only had wine and not beer. And I just think, yeah, definitely at this point in life, anyway, it's more of an older person's drink. I think maybe not to disparage any wine drinkers out there, but for me, I feel like beer is where I'm at right now, and maybe in the future, I'll be one of those glass of wine at night kind of people. But I can't really see it right now, you know.
Is there a craft wine industry?
Well, I suppose most of the wines tend to be almost craft wine. Anything that's not one of the mass produced, like a lot of them in their own vineyards and stuff, would be essentially craft wine.
Yeah, fair.
I was in San Francisco, Kinger, and in a place called Alcatraz, you might not have heard of it, they talked about some very entrepreneurial brewers who would brew their own wine in toilets. So there is a toilet wine brewery kind of craft circle out there. Maybe you'd be interested in.
That's going to be an acquired taste, isn't it? And that brings us to the end of the non-alcoholic episode of the Crafty Crew podcast. I think pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely for one of them.
Yeah, fair. As always, if you have any questions, comments, requests, anything at all, Mark, where can people find us?
Everyone can find us on Facebook at Crafty Crew Podcast, Untapped at Crafty Crew Podcast, and you can email us directly at Gmail at craftycrewpodcast@gmail.com. Also, we're on every good streaming site, so Spotify, YouTube, Anchor, SoundCloud, wherever you listen to podcasts, we are there.
Brilliant. Next week it's double IPAs, and we've gone for Galway Bay Breweries of Foam and Fury and Firestone Walker Brewing Company's Double Jack Double IPA. And look, seeing as I messed up the intro and didn't have the lads introduce themselves, I'm going to say it's a goodbye from Nally.
Good luck.
Goodbye from Mark.
Goodbye.
Goodbye from Walshy.
Bye now.
And a goodbye from me. See you next week.